Dylan's hand froze. Right in the middle of Like a Rolling Stone, second line of the third verse, his fingers locked on the strings, his eyes fixed on the left edge of the stage. There between the curtains, a silhouette stood, round glasses. Dylan stopped playing. The microphone was live, but no words came out. 14,000 people held their breath. Bass guitarist Rick looked at Dylan in confusion. Drummer Derek froze his sticks midair. Dylan stepped out of the spotlight. He leaned into the microphone. His voice was hoarse, but everyone heard, "Hold on, someone's here." The crowd stirred. Dylan took the guitar off his shoulder, set it on the stage floor. The metallic sound echoed through the hall. He walked toward the wings. 14,000 pairs of eyes followed him. Producer Jerry screamed into his headset, "Don't cut the lights!" "What's he doing?" Manager Albert stood frozen backstage. "I don't know." When Dylan reached the curtains, the silhouette stepped forward. It was John Lennon. A slight smile played on his face. His glasses reflected the stage lights. He wore a casual leather jacket, his hair falling to his shoulders. "Bob," he said calmly, 9 years ago, you made me a promise." Dylan couldn't breathe. Lennon continued, "Today's the day you keep that promise." Dylan was in the Beatles' studio for the first time. Studio 2 was dimly lit, only work lights on. The smell of cigarette smoke mixed with hot tape machines and guitar wood. The Beatles were recording Rubber Soul. John, Paul, George, and Ringo sat exhausted on the floor, surrounded by coffee cups and ashtrays. The staff had gone home hours ago. When Dylan walked through the door, John jumped to his feet. "Dylan, you came." Dylan smiled. "I promised." 3 weeks earlier, they'd met in New York. Dylan had gotten them high. They'd talked about music for hours. John had asked, "How do you write? Your lyrics are different. Ours sound childish next to yours." Dylan, "Because you're still using the word love. I use loneliness. They're the same thing, but one cuts deeper." That night, Dylan had promised, "One day I'll come to London. I'll show you." Now he was here. John gathered Paul and George around the table. Dylan pulled out his guitar. "Got a song you're working on?" he asked. Paul, "Norwegian Wood, but we're stuck. The lyrics are flat." Dylan smiled. "Play it for me." Paul started playing. The melody was beautiful, but the lyrics were vague, unclear. Dylan stopped him. "What's the song about?" Paul, "A night with a woman, but I'm not sure exactly." Dylan, "You're trying to tell the story." "Don't tell, show. What does the room smell like? Where does the morning light hit? What does she say, but what does she really mean?" He picked up his guitar. "And most important, what gets destroyed? Something always gets destroyed." George, "The Norwegian Wood." Dylan nodded. "Yes, but don't say why you burned it. Just end with the image. So I lit a fire. Let people wonder." The room went silent. John grabbed his notebook, scribbled furiously, took off his glasses, looked at Dylan. "You've never taught anyone like this before, have you?" Dylan shrugged. "I don't teach. I just share what works." Paul played the song again with Dylan's suggestions. It transformed. Mysterious, dangerous, powerful. John stood up, extended his hand. "Bob, if I ever need you someday, will you come?" Dylan shook his hand. "I will." John held his gaze. "I mean it. If I'm lost, if the music's gone, will you come?" Dylan, "I promise." George grabbed a camera. "We need to remember this." The photo captured the moment. Dylan, John, and George, slightly out of focus, smiling. When it developed, John wrote on the back, "Dylan, someday I'll need you too. Don't forget." JL September 1965. He handed it to Dylan. "Keep this." Dylan put it in his jacket pocket. "I will." Dylan stood at baggage claim watching suitcases circle. Chicago was brutal in February. Snow fell heavily outside. Albert stood beside him with a clipboard. "Rehearsal at 4, concert at 9:30. Chicago Tribune wants an interview." "No," Dylan said. Albert continued. "They'll ask about blood on the tracks. Why is it so painful?" Dylan grabbed his suitcase. "Tell them some albums don't end. They just stop, like relationships." They walked to the exit. Chicago's winter hit them hard. Dylan was late. The band waited. When Dylan arrived, he simply said, "Tangled up in blue." He started playing, not singing, just playing, testing chords, feeling the melody. At the third chorus, he stopped abruptly. "Rick, don't follow me. Lead sometimes. Make me chase you." "Derek, your hits are too clean. I want chaos but controlled." They rehearsed for 3 hours. Dylan communicated through playing, not words. At 8 p.m., "That's good. We're ready." He left. Derek looked at Rick. "You think he's ready?" Rick, "Dylan's never ready. That's why he's Dylan." Dylan couldn't sleep. He stood at the window overlooking Lake Michigan. Wind beat against the glass. Tick, 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 creating a rhythm. He opened the drawer, pulled out an old envelope. The Polaroid from 1965. Dylan, John, and George at Abbey Road. On the back, John's handwriting. "Dylan, someday I'll need you too. Don't forget. JL." The phone rang at 3:14 a.m. Dylan stared at it. It rang 6 times, then stopped. He lay down, the photo on the nightstand. Still couldn't sleep. Dylan sat alone at breakfast, dark sunglasses on. A young man approached. "Mr. Dylan, someone left this for you." An envelope. On it, Abbey Road. Dylan's heart stopped. "Who brought this?" "I don't know, sir. It was in the mail slot this morning." Dylan opened it. John Lennon's handwriting. "Bob, I'm in Chicago. Room 1247. I'll be backstage tonight. You didn't forget your promise, did you? We started something in '65 that we never finished. Tonight we finish it. John." Dylan read it 3 times. Albert found Dylan. "You're 3 hours early. I need to be alone." In his dressing room, Dylan reread the note. Albert knocked. "Bob, what's going on?" Dylan, "If I walk off stage tonight, don't be surprised." "What do you mean?" "I made a promise 9 years ago. I'm keeping it." "This is about Lennon, isn't it?" Dylan, "I made a promise and I'm keeping it." 14,000 people packed the opera house. Lights dimmed, the crowd roared. Dylan walked on stage. He played 6 songs, the crowd was electric. Everything was perfect. Then came Like a Rolling Stone. And we're back. Dylan backstage with John Lennon. Lennon, "I'm not who I used to be, Bob. The Beatles are over. Yoko and I are struggling. The music's lost. And I remembered your promise. You said if I ever couldn't find the words, come find you. Well, I can't find them. I need you." Dylan's throat was tight. "What do you want?" Lennon smiled. "Come back on stage. Sing that song with me. The one we started in Abbey Road. The one we never finished because you said it hadn't been lived yet." "Well, it's been lived now." Dylan remembered. Fragments of a melody. Lyrics about promises and time. "Do you still remember it?" Dylan asked. Lennon pulled out a crumpled paper. Dylan's handwriting from 1965. "Every note. I've carried this for 9 years." Dylan took a breath. "Okay, let's do it." Dylan walked back on stage, but he wasn't alone. John Lennon walked out behind him. The crowd exploded. "John Lennon! It's John Lennon!" People jumped to their feet. Cameras flashed. The noise was deafening. Dylan spoke into the mic. "This man, 9 years ago, I made him a promise. Today, I'm keeping it." Complete silence. They picked up guitars, looked at each other, started playing. The melody was familiar yet new. Dylan's harmonica wailed. Dylan sang first. "We started something we couldn't finish back when the world was black and white. You held the chords, I held the meaning. We traded truths into the night." Lennon took the second verse. "You taught me how to hide the answers. I taught you how to ask the pain. We built a bridge from distant countries and now we're crossing it again." Together, the chorus. "This is the song we never recorded, the one we saved for when we're lost. This is the promise, finally delivered, no matter what it cost." The crowd was crying. The music touched something deep about friendship, loss, time, and promises kept. Dylan took the third verse. 9 years can change a man completely, can take a marriage, break it down, can turn a boy into a stranger, can burn a kingdom to the ground." Lennon answered, But some things stay beneath the changes, like bedrock under shifting sand. A promise made at dawn in London, a picture held in trembling hands. Final chorus together. This is the song we never recorded, the one we saved for when we're lost. This is the promise finally delivered, no matter what it cost, no matter what it cost. The last chord faded into silence. Then applause. Standing ovation. 5 minutes. 6. 7. Lennon put his hand on Dylan's shoulder. Thank you, Bob. You kept your word. Dylan. You taught me the weed. I taught you the words. We're even. Lennon laughed. We're even. They embraced. Lennon walked off stage. Dylan turned to the band. Let's finish the set. Lennon was gone. Dylan sat alone, holding the 1965 lyrics. A note was attached. Bob, some promises take 9 years to keep, but they're worth the wait. You saved me tonight. Maybe I saved you too. J. A phone number at the bottom. Albert entered. That was incredible. The press is going insane. No interviews, Dylan said. Let the music speak. They'll write about it anyway. Let them. Albert sat. You know this will be legendary, right? Dylan shrugged. Maybe it'll just be a story about two guys keeping a promise. Some promises take 9 years to keep. Some songs can't end until they're lived. And sometimes two geniuses meet in front of 14,000 people because a promise from the past demands to be honored. Music isn't just sound. Music is the promises that even time can't forget. Dylan learned that night. The most powerful songs are the ones never recorded because they're not just songs. They're moments. They're promises. They're proof that some things survive when everything else falls apart. In 1975, Rolling Stone asked Dylan about that night. What was the song called? Dylan smiled. It doesn't have a name. Will you ever record it? No. Some songs are meant to be sung once, in one moment. And if you capture them, you kill what made them special. But don't you want people to hear it? 14,000 people heard it, Dylan said. That's enough. The song remained unrecorded, unnamed, existing only in the memories of those who were there and in the hearts of two men who proved that some promises are worth keeping, no matter how long it takes. The Drake Hotel's bar was supposed to be closed, but the bartender, a weathered man named Frank who'd worked there for 30 years, had made an exception. Two men sat in the corner booth, hidden from view, nursing whiskeys that had long gone warm. Dylan and Lennon. After the chaos backstage, after the journalists had finally been pushed out, after Albert had given up trying to get a statement, they'd slipped out through the loading dock and walked 3 blocks through falling snow to Dylan's hotel. Now they sat across from each other, the table between them covered with empty glasses and a full ashtray. I didn't think you'd actually come, Dylan said quietly. Lennon smiled. I've been carrying that promise around like a stone in my pocket for 9 years. Every time things got hard, and they got hard a lot, I'd think, Dylan promised, if I really need him, he'll come. He paused. Tonight I really needed you. The Beatles ending must have been... It wasn't the Beatles, Lennon interrupted. It was everything after, trying to prove I could do it alone, trying to be political, trying to be artistic, trying to be anything other than just John. He took a sip. You know what the worst part is? I forgot how to write, really write, the way we used to in Abbey Road. Words that cut. I've been writing slogans. Give peace a chance. Great for protests, terrible for the soul. Dylan understood. After my motorcycle accident, I lost 2 years. Couldn't write anything real. Just sat in Woodstock staring at blank pages. What brought you back? Pain, Dylan said simply. Real pain. My marriage falling apart. Watching my kids grow up in a broken home. You can't fake that. The words came back because I had something real to bleed about. Lennon nodded slowly. That's what tonight was for me. Real. Not a performance. Not a statement. Just 2 friends keeping a promise. He looked directly at Dylan. Thank you for not making me beg. You didn't have to beg. You just had to show up. They sat in silence for a moment. Frank, the bartender, wiped glasses in the background, pretending not to listen but hearing every word. "That song," Lennon said. "Did you really remember all of it? Or were you improvising?" Dylan smiled. "Half and half. I remembered the skeleton. The rest came from living it." "9 years can change a man completely," Lennon quoted. "That verse wasn't in the original, was it?" "No, that was tonight. That was us." Lennon raised his glass. "To promises kept." Dylan clinked his glass against Lennon's. "To promises kept." They drank. "Will we do this again?" Lennon asked. Dylan considered. "Maybe, but not because we have to, because we want to." Deal. Outside, snow continued to fall in Chicago. Inside, two of the greatest songwriters who ever lived sat in a closed bar at 3 a.m., not talking about music or fame or history, just sitting together in the comfortable silence of people who understood each other completely. At 3:30, they finally stood to leave. At the door, Lennon turned back. "Hey, Bob? Yeah? That photo, the one from Abbey Road, you really kept it all these years?" Dylan pulled out his wallet, showed him. The edges were worn, the image faded, but it was there. Lennon's eyes got wet. "Christ, I didn't think you actually—" "A promise is a promise," Dylan said. They shook hands, then impulsively hugged. "Don't be a stranger," Lennon said. "I won't." Lennon walked out into the snow. Dylan watched him go until he disappeared around the corner. Frank, the bartender, came over. "Another drink, Mr. Dylan?" "No thanks, Frank. I think I'm good." "That was really John Lennon, wasn't it?" Dylan smiled. "Yeah, it really was. What you two did tonight at the Opera House, my wife was there. She called me crying, said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen." Dylan put a $100 bill on the bar. "Tell her thank you." He walked to the elevator, rode up to his floor, went to his room. The photo from Abbey Road went back in his wallet. The note from Lennon went into his guitar case, where it would stay for the next 40 years. He finally fell asleep at 4 a.m., for the first time in days sleeping without nightmares. By Michael Patterson, music correspondent. What happened last night at the Chicago Civic Opera House will be talked about for generations. Bob Dylan, midway through his comeback tour, stopped his legendary song, Like a Rolling Stone, and walked off stage. The crowd sat in stunned silence. Then John Lennon, yes, that John Lennon, appeared from the wings. What followed was a performance of a song no one had ever heard, a collaboration between two of music's greatest poets that seemed to transcend the moment itself. Witnesses reported crying without knowing why. The song, which neither artist has named or plans to record, was about promises, time, and friendship. "It felt like we were watching something sacred," said Sarah Morrison, 24, who attended with her fiancé. "Like we weren't supposed to be there, but we were lucky enough to witness it anyway." Neither Dylan nor Lennon would comment for this article. Dylan's manager, Albert Grossman, would only say, "Some moments speak for themselves." But perhaps the most telling detail, as Lennon left the stage, he and Dylan embraced. Not the performative hug of show business, but the real embrace of two old friends who traveled through time together. Whatever promise they made to each other, they kept it last night, and 14,000 people were there to bear witness. A young journalist, 23 years old, born long after that Chicago night, sat across from Bob Dylan in a small office in Malibu. "Mr. Dylan, there's this story about a concert in Chicago in 1974 with John Lennon. People who were there say it was the greatest moment of their lives, but there's no recording, no official record. Did it really happen?" Dylan, now 73, silver-haired but still sharp-eyed, smiled slightly. "It happened. Why was there no recording?" "There were recordings, bootlegs, people smuggled in tape recorders. You can probably find them on the internet now. But you never released it officially." "No. Why not?" Dylan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because some things aren't meant to be sold. They're meant to be experienced. Once. By the people who were there. If we'd recorded it and put it on an album, it would have become a product. But that night, it was something else. It was a moment of truth between two friends." "John Lennon died 6 years later," the journalist said quietly. Do you ever wish you'd recorded it so people could hear him one more time? Dylan's eyes went distant. People who need to hear it heard it. People who were there, they carry it with them. That's better than any recording. That's immortality. Not on vinyl, but in memory. Do you miss him? Every day, Dylan said, but I don't need a recording to remember. I close my eyes and I'm back in that spotlight with him. I can hear his voice, see his smile, feel the weight of that promise finally being kept. He paused. That's worth more than all the recordings in the world. The interview ended there. As the journalist packed up his equipment, Dylan pulled out his wallet. Inside, worn and faded almost to invisibility, was a Polaroid from 1965. Two young men who had no idea what was coming, who made a promise they'd keep decades later. Dylan looked at it, smiled, put it back. Some things you carry forever, not because you have to, but because you want to.